And once again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the Lunch and Learn, your community development partner, the USDA. I'd like to thank the speaker, good friend of the league, and to many of you, Jane Oselta. Jane is the state director for rural development, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That is a presidential appointment. She was appointed by President Joe Biden. This office provides loans and grant assistance to expand economic opportunities and create jobs primarily in rural areas, supporting infrastructure, business development, housing, community facilities, healthcare facilities, public safety, and high-speed internet access. She is the first woman to hold this position as state director and leads a team of over 20 specialists delivering a suite of investment programs for New Jersey's rural communities. Once again, previously you served as vice president, Jane, of the South Jersey Development Council. You live in Vineland. Apparently has quite a green thumb, and is very involved in gardening, and probably is very much looking forward to spring, as we all are. So with that, we are running this like as a Zoom. So I would ask if everyone can mute themselves. Paul Penna, our senior legislative analyst, is monitoring the Q&A, and will facilitate a Q&A later. So you can put questions in the box. We can also open up at the end if necessary, as well. So Jane, good to see you again. Thank you for doing this, and I'll pass the baton to you. Jane, you're muted.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you. I hit it too many times. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Paul, for the invitation to join you this afternoon. Thank you for the introduction. As Mike mentioned, I'm actually celebrating my 1-year anniversary in the job as of yesterday. So I'm thrilled to be here. The mission of the USDA Rural Development is vast. We make investments in small rural towns across New Jersey. We do it through our community programs, our housing programs, and our business programs. And I'm going to get into it a little bit later. And, as Mike said, yes, I do have a green thumb. That wasn't part of the job requirements while we are the USDA. Yes, we do farm support and work with our farming communities, but we also really get involved in the economic development of small rural towns. And the mission here is really to provide the resources for our rural areas to be healthy, vital parts of the state, so that way your residents, your businesses stay and live in your communities and live the life that they'd like to live in our rural towns. So I'll get into it a little bit about all the different things that we have. And with your indulgence, I'm going to turn my camera off so that I could focus on some of my notes. We do a lot of stuff, so I'm going to go through pretty quickly all the different kinds of things that we have, in hopes that for some of you who are listening, you may think, aha, I need to get in touch with them because we might be able to work together. So I'll touch it on a very high level, but at the end, we're here to as a resource for you. So if something rings familiar, if you think there's a nexus, a connection, at the end I'll have my contact information, and you can call us, and we'd love to sit and talk and see whether we can work together. So with that, Mike, if you could next slide, and I'm going to turn my video off. So as you can see, we have 3 primary mission areas in rural development: business, housing, and utilities. And in FY22, just to give you a sense of the kind of investment that we made over 500 obligations, which totaled $107 million across those 3 mission areas. The funding for our programs is through the annual federal budget that Congress passes each year. And each year, New Jersey gets an allocation that's used to make these direct investments. In making these investments, USDA Rural Development has identified 3 key priorities to support economic growth in our rural communities. And we've incorporated these priorities into our program application scoring. We encourage applicants to consider projects that advance these priorities. The first is addressing climate change and environmental justice. And these are projects that will reduce climate pollution and increase resilience to the impacts of climate change, such as investments in solar energy efficiency projects. Second priority is advancing racial justice and place-based equity and opportunity. These are projects that ensure all rural residents have equitable access to our programs and benefit from the rural development funded projects, such as projects in underserved communities. And then third is creating more and better market opportunities. And these are projects that help rural communities recover economically by creating more and better market opportunities through improved infrastructure. Next slide. We have more than 50 loan, grant, and loan guarantee programs to help stimulate economic development. Nice little wheel here of just some of the pieces of the pie we invest in. Yes, we invest in agriculture and food systems, but we also invest in water and sewer projects, senior and child care, education projects, clean energy and energy efficiency projects, business expansion, and affordable housing. And my remarks moving forward are really to provide, mayors and towns a high-level review of the programs that we have that could be a fit for your long-term goals in addressing affordable housing or home repairs, the health of your local businesses and downtowns, the water and sewer infrastructure maintenance, repairs, and expansion, and then the community services you provide, all of which really contribute to the health and vibrancy of your town, which in other words is our mission. Next slide. So I'm going to start with the Rural Business Cooperative Service, and these business programs provide financial backing and technical assistance to stimulate business creation and growth. The programs work through partnerships with public and private community-based organizations and financial institutions to provide the financial assistance, business development, and technical assistance to rural businesses. The programs help provide capital, equipment, space, job training, entrepreneurial skills that can help start and grow a business, create and preserve quality jobs in our rural towns. There are loans and grants that public entities such as counties and municipalities and nonprofits can apply. Grants and guaranteed loans for our small rural businesses in rural areas and our ag producers anywhere in the state. And then our guaranteed loans for businesses and nonprofits in rural areas. Next slide. These are just a few of the guaranteed loan and relending programs for your awareness. I'm going to talk a little bit more about our grant programs, but these programs provide rural businesses with that access to capital. You can use it for purchasing real estate, buildings, machinery, equipment. So if you think of some of those, underutilized spaces in your town, and a business wants to expand into that space, this is, these loan programs are available that have really great rates. And we work with the local lenders to be able to help those businesses grow. So next slide. So I'm going to cover these 5 grant programs. And I'm going to start, next slide, with the Rural Energy for America program. I'm with the federal government all of a year, and there is an acronym for everything. This is, I'm going to talk about our REAP program. But before I do, this is the list of communities that I had understood were planning to attend this afternoon. There is a definition for rural area eligibility across all of our programs. It gets a little crazy. So I've come up with this red light, green light, quick, easy way for you to see whether or not your community is eligible and for which program. So up on the screen now is our rural business cooperative programs. The definition of rural for this program is communities that are less than 50,000 and not in the urbanized area contiguous and adjacent to a town that has a population of more than 50,000. And as I mentioned earlier, agriculture producers anywhere in the state are eligible for our business programs. The communities you see here, those in red are ineligible. The communities in green are eligible, and portions of the rural of the communities in yellow are eligible. Next slide. So here's the Rural Energy for America program. And this provides guaranteed loans and grants to agriculture producers and rural small businesses for renewable energy systems, for energy efficiency improvements. The program targets small businesses to help reduce costs on their energy bills, and through the savings, help create and retain jobs. It also targets farmers to help cut their energy operating costs, keeping farms viable and preserving an active agriculture in each of our communities. Pictured here is Unionville Vineyards in Hunterdon County, which received a $75,000 grant for a ground mount solar project. And then also pictured is the Donaldson Farms in Hackettstown that installed a solar curtain, which is an energy efficiency project that saves the business $8,500 a year. Next slide. Now, through the Inflation Reduction Act, which passed last year, this Rural Energy for America program, REAP, was funded with an additional $2 billion more over a decade to invest in what we anticipate another 45,000 farms and small businesses. And as a result, New Jersey will see a 5 times increase in our typical REAP allocation. So the Inflation Reduction Act also included an increase in the grant share of this program. It used to be a 25% grant, and it's now a 40% grant. And then the IRA also doubled the maximum size grants. We can now do $500,000 grant for energy efficiency projects and $1 million grant for renewable energy systems. Next slide. This is just a quick little visual of who's eligible. Again, an ag producer anywhere in the state of New Jersey, and an ag producer that is an entity that receives 50% or more of their gross income from production. That could be farms, wineries, nurseries, and then rural small businesses are eligible. They are defined as by the SBA, and that's basically, fewer than 500 employees and sales less than, I think it's $1 million. And again, you have to be in a rural area of a community less than 50,000. And besides the energy savings reducing operating costs, this program also helps reduce demand on utility infrastructure, which I know in some parts of the state is a challenge. Next slide. This is just a quick visual of some of the energy efficiency and renewable energy projects that somebody can use. Obvious ones: lighting, heating, cooling, insulation. And then on the renewable side, we do a lot of solar, ground or roof mounted, but we also can do wind, hydro, anaerobic digesters. And then just a note, our REAP program can be used with the state's clean energy program incentives. So a project can have our funding, those incentives as well, even your local utility incentives, all can be combined into that project. Next slide. So this next slide just gives us an idea of the deadlines. We're coming up on March 31st, which is the deadline, for our grants above 20,000. It's also the deadline for the combination grant and loans. We do expect another notice to be published in the spring. This will be for a second round of funding. And then we anticipate additional notices every quarter, which is up from twice a year. And then at the end of the year, October 31st, is the deadline for grant applications for less than 20,000. So that may change with our spring notice. And in New Jersey, it's pretty hard to find a project that's less than $20,000. Next slide. So now I wanted to talk about our Rural Business Development Grant program. This is the RBDG, and it's designed to help finance the development of small and emerging businesses in rural areas. Municipalities can apply for these grants to plan or implement an economic development plan, provide technical assistance to businesses to support job creation or support new business growth or expansion. RBDG grant projects are technical assistance type projects, business incubators, workforce training, feasibility studies, marketing plans. Just to give you an idea, last year, the Wildwood Business Improvement District received $28,000, which is about 60% of the cost, to complete the engineering phase of the Boardwalk to Cedar Avenue pedestrian connector project. This would drive folks from their boardwalk, a walkable area, to their downtown. And also last year, the city of Salem received $30,000, which was used to provide technical assistance training to entrepreneurs using small business incubator spaces in downtown Salem. Other examples, Sussex County Community College use their funds for equipment in their new culinary school in Newton. The Hackettstown bid purchased a Toro Workman. I like this one. It's a Toro Workman, and it was designed, they used that to add curb appeal and beautification floral program for their downtown from May to October. It's a way to quickly water all of those plants that they have. And then that's also a little workhorse. They use that to move equipment and tools needed for their special events in their downtown throughout the year. Next slide. Here's the value added producer grants. This is a tool for mayors to help preserve farms through creating new business ventures, such as farmers markets, wineries, food processing, all to grow agriculture and recreational based economies and to strengthen the local food supply chain. Plus, doing so creates a tax revenue and jobs for the town. The value added producers grant helps the agricultural producers enter into value added activities excuse me, to generate new products, create and expand marketing opportunities, and increase producer income. Excuse me. I had a little tickle. Excuse me. Examples of planning activities excuse me, include conducting feasibility studies, developing business plans for processing and marketing their proposed value-added project. So what I envision is you have a small farmer that you can go pick strawberries. Well, now that business wants to get into the strawberry jam business and sell, strawberry jam products through their little retail store. This is a perfect program to help them do that. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Here's a couple of examples. This is the Salem Oak Vineyard. They used our $25,000 grant funding to conduct a feasibility study. And then you'll also notice those nice solar panels. They came back and they applied for a reprogram to put the solar on their roof. Next slide. Here's another example. This is the Stony Hill Gardens in Chester. They were awarded just over $42,000 for a working capital grant. The investment covers the expenses related to the labeling, packaging, and promotional planning to launch a new business product. They were going to produce apple juices and wines, and they expected to create 6 new jobs out of that. And last year, we had a value-added producer grant awarded to Global Agricultural Productions of Jersey City. Their grant was for $250,000 and will be used to implement a direct-to-customer strategy to complete the expansion of its packing and shipping facilities to support this strategy. So you can see there where an example of Jersey City is in by no means rural, but when you're an agricultural producer anywhere in the state, you're eligible for these programs. Next slide. And then here's our meat and poultry processing grant. It launched last February. It was the result of the American Rescue Plan, and the MPEP provides grants to help eligible processors expand their capacity. We designed this program to encourage competition and growth in the U.S. meat processing sector and to help improve the supply chain resiliency. And I always point to, in the middle of COVID, when each one of those massive facilities in the Midwest went down, our shelves went bare. This program is really, really designed to get at that, to help local processors expand and be able to meet the local supply. Eligible applicants are businesses that produce meat or poultry. Again, anywhere in the state, there are no rural eligibility requirements. The first round is closed. However, we expect a second round announcement in the next few months. An example here is Goffel Road Poultry Farm in Wyckoff. They received $4.2 million grant for an expansion project that added a second 15,000 square feet processing facility and a new retail shop. Again, not rural. Wyckoff is not rural by any stretch of the means. Next is, I just want to touch briefly on our housing programs. which give families and individuals the opportunity to buy, build, or repair affordable homes located in rural towns that help our rural areas thrive. We have 3 single-family housing loan programs and a community-based grant program. As you see here, the direct loan program is where the USDA is the holder of the mortgage, and this is for very low and low income buyers. We have a guaranteed loan program. That's where we back the home buyer's lender, and that's for moderate income buyers. And then a grant and loan repair program for very low and low income homeowners, and then some other grants for public bodies and nonprofits, which I'll get into. This next slide shows for the attendees, the eligibility for our housing programs. Communities in red are ineligible and communities in green are eligible. The definition of this is the communities that are up to 20,000 in population are rural in character and the home purchasers lack access to mortgage credit. Our housing programs provide a path to home ownership for low and very low income families in affordable housing units, and then combined with the community planning can convert renters to homeowners. Again, creating that stability in a small rural town to keep our residents, again, living in our rural towns and keeping our towns thrive. Rural development invests in the home purchases and repairs because home ownership leads to family and community stability and creates that generational wealth for families. And then these programs to repair and improve homes, they increase the quality of life. They keep homes warm and safe, dry, and allow homeowners to age in place. Plus, it protects property values and prevents neighborhood declines. Next slide. This is the direct mortgage, the direct loan program. We're one of the largest mortgage lenders in the nation. We have one of the best mortgage products out there. It's not limited to first-time home buyers. It's 100% financing, so no money down for low and very low income home buyers. Our interest rate is lower than the market rate, so it's currently at 4%. Some borrowers, it can get down to as little as 1%. Our terms are 33 years or to 38 years if the household income is less than 60% of the median household income for the state, which makes a purchase that much more affordable. And then we have for our moderate income buyers, we work with the approved lenders in our guaranteed program. And again, that product even outcompetes the market, again, with 100% financing, and our origination fees can be rolled into the loan. Next slide. Here's our home repair program that provides grants and loans to help rural residents repair, improve, or modernize their homes. It creates a funding source that can be combined with local funding programs that help you maintain your housing stock in your community. Typically, we see requests for this for replacing a roof, a septic system, doing a handicap ramp, or handicap roll-in showers. And then we can also do new energy efficiency HVAC through this program. We also partner with nonprofit organizations like Habitats, even county governments that can offer additional assistance to homeowners to improve the condition of their home. Next slide. This is the 504 loan and grant repair program. Again, eligible applicants are very low homeowners in the rural areas. This program provides the grant assistance to seniors, enabling them to remain in their homes. And it assists the very low income homeowners with affordable loan rates and terms to repair and maintain the home. Grants are available to seniors, and the maximum grant is $10,000, which actually can be forgiven after 3 years if the property is not sold or has changed title. And if the project is above $10,000, which, obviously nearly every septic system replacement is, we offer a loan for up to $40,000 at 1% over 20 years. And then for those under 62, we offer the loans at the 1%. Next slide. And here's our housing preservation grant. This is where we partner with local government entities, nonprofits like, Habitat for Humanity, to assist in their programs to repair or rehab the home of a low or very low income household. So we provide the grants to the municipalities or the county or the nonprofit to assist in very low and low income homeowners repairing and maintaining their homes. This program is an option for rental property owners as well to make repairs, provided they make the units available to low and very low income families. These funds assist the organization's applicants to make health and safety repairs such as electrical wiring, insulation, HVAC. Grants can be used to assist the organization in the labor and material costs, as well as some of the administrative expenses to operate the repair program. This grant announcement, we expect to come out in April or May this year. Next slide. This is just a quick little visual. Every year, Gloucester County applies for this grant. In 2020, they received over $115,000 to support 24 families. In 2021, they received $144,000, and that was to assist in repairs for 12 families. And again, these funds can be leveraged with HUD funding, like CBDG, home funding, state funding, like small city programs as well. Next slide. Now I want to get into a little bit about our community facilities, where we support a town's efforts to provide community services. Through the community facilities programs, we provide loans, grants, and loan guarantees for essential community facilities in rural areas. Community facility program eligible applicants are public entities or nonprofits. We do have a priority to give to healthcare, education, and public safety projects, but we can also do schools, senior and child care centers, town halls, police or fire stations. The funds can be used to purchase, construct, and or improve essential community facilities. They can be used to purchase equipment and pay related project expenses. Next slide. And then here's the attendees eligibility for our community facility programs. Again, communities in red and ineligible, and communities in green are eligible. And the definition you see here is a city or a town that has a population of less than 20,000 and is not in an urbanized area. Communities that are green that also have a median household income of less than, currently it's $82,218, are eligible for grant funding. The grant funding is on a sliding scale, so depending upon the community's MHI, the grant amount can range from 15% of a project's cost to 75% of a project's cost, which leaves the balance as the local contribution match. And we can combine grants with our loans. Next slide, please. And then our loan terms can go up to 30 or 40 years, depending upon the useful life of the equipment. And as of January 1st, our market rate was 3.75. So pretty competitive. This is an example of some of the grant projects that we've invested in. Some examples right here are the street sweeper that West Wildwood purchased to help clean up after major storms, to keep the streets clean and help keep debris from entering their back bay, thereby reducing water pollution. It was obligated in 2014 for $43,300. And in 2019, we awarded Fairfield Township Volunteer Fire Company nearly $55,000 for a command vehicle. Another example, a $40,000 grant was obligated in 2019 for the purchase of a 50-watt gas generator to supply the emergency power to a fire department in the borough of Westville. That fire department serves as the shelter, warming and cooling center, and the generator allowed them to provide the 24/7 emergency needs of the residents and the first responders. Next slide. This is a technical assistance and training grant. It's designed to assist communities in identifying the resources from public and private sources to finance a community facility needs. The funds can be used, as you see here, to prepare reports of surveys necessary to request our financial assistance, prepare the application for our financial assistance, improve management, including financial management related to the operation of those community facilities. And there are two types of applicants here. There's the technical assistance provider or the ultimate recipient. The technical assistance provider will provide the assistance to the ultimate recipient. And in this case, the ultimate recipient can be the town. And the town would be the applicant. And in that case, the ultimate recipient would be eligible for limited to a $50,000 grant. Next slide. The last of our three mission areas is our rural utility services, which provides the much needed infrastructure for our rural communities. This can include water, waste treatment, electric power, and telecommunications. And all of these services help expand economic opportunities and improve the quality of life for our rural residents. In this next slide, you'll see the list of attendees that are eligible for our water environmental programs. Grants are possible for those communities in green which have a median household income less than 91,354. Again, we can provide grants with our loans with terms that can go up to 40 years. We have a sliding scale of interest rates based on the community's MHI. And as of January 1st, the poverty interest rate is 2.25%. The intermediate interest rate is 3%, and then the market rate is 3.25%. 3.75%, sorry. Next slide. So I just want to touch on 5 programs that a municipality may have an interest in, starting with our water and waste disposal program that provides the loans, grants, and loan guarantees for drinking water, sewer, solid waste, storm drainage facilities. The funds can be used to improve infrastructure, support public health and safety, and promote economic development. This is a program that can help towns replace lead lines, address PFAS water issues, replace old infrastructure. And these funds, our funds, can be used with the iBank and the DEP funding. So you can add our funds into the capital stack there. Public bodies and nonprofit organizations can qualify for our loans and grants. In this next slide, you'll see an example of our water waste disposal loan. This was Flemington Borough received nearly $5 million in combined loan and grants to install a new water storage tank and make additional site improvements, including a new booster pump station, an emergency generator, and the control system software. And the next slide is another example. That's Paulsboro down in Gloucester County, where they used a combined $7.5 million in loan and grant funding for an elevated water storage tank to be in compliance with New Jersey's water standards. This project is also a good example of how making these investments promotes economic development, as this project facilitated the connection to the marine terminal. And that marine terminal is the first new marine terminal built on the Delaware River in more than 50 years. It's an economic generator for the town of Paulsboro, and a great example of how a community project like this advances economic development. Next slide. This is our Emergency Community Water Assistance Grant, or ECWAG, and it's used to assist rural towns that have a decline in water quality or quantity due to an emergency. Pictured here is Long Beach Township. They were awarded a $500,000 grant to demolish and replace the pump room building, well buildings, chlorine room, the water tower, all which were damaged by Superstorm Sandy. And another example is National Park, that received a notice of violation from the DEP for exceeding the maximum contaminant level for a PFNA in its water supply. This project will install additional filtration at the existing water plant site and correct its health and sanitary problems. And I know that the EPA just came out with some rules yesterday, proposed rules yesterday. This is a program that might be able to assist in that. And then the next slide. These are grants for communities that the first is our search grant. Those grants are used to help pay for feasibility studies and the preliminary design assistance, technical assistance that you need for distressed communities to find solutions to water, sewer, and stormwater and solid waste management issues. These are eligibility are towns that have a population of 2,500 and a median household income of less than $73,083. The maximum grant here is $30,000, and there's no local match required. The other is the pre-development grant, or PPG, and it's used to pay for preliminary engineering and environmental reports or other costs associated with developing a complete water and waste disposal loan or grant application to help implement solutions to a water, sewer, or stormwater solid waste management issue. Eligibility here is a town of a population of less than 10,000 with a median household income less than $73,083. The maximum grant here is $30,000 or 75% of the eligible project cost, whichever is lower. And the grant repayment is only necessary if additional funds are approved for the project. So examples here, Woodbine and Cape May County, Down Township in Cumberland County, they each received a $30,000 PPG that turned into sewer projects for our direct loan and grant funding. And down in Cumberland County in 2020, Shiloh was awarded $28,500 for a search grant and they used it to study feasibility of installing new sewer system in the borough to replace the existing septic systems on small lots and cesspools that don't currently meet DEP regulations. And that study will investigate the costs of installing the new sewer mains in the borough and connecting to an existing sewer infrastructure. Next slide, please. And then here's our solid waste management grant. This is to help communities evaluate current landfill conditions to identify threats to water sources. The funds can be used for technical assistance training to enhance operation and maintenance of any active landfills, technical assistance and training to prepare for a landfill closure or future use of a landfill site is also eligible for the use of these funds. For this, an eligible rural area has a population of 10,000 or less. The application window is typically October 1st to December 31st each year. An example here would be Cape May County MUA received a solid waste management grant to study their landfill long-term treatment and disposal options of leachate. And they received a $90,000 grant in 2013. Next slide. And then our water and environmental programs help rural communities with solutions for stormwater management, eliminating contaminants from the water supply, improving sewer capacity and efficiency to help advance goals to reduce carbon footprint through energy efficiencies. And the state just recently announced grants to help municipalities transition to the new permitting system requirements. And that include reassigning former Tier B towns, which generally were our smaller, more rural communities, to Tier A. So those new Tier A towns can apply for 75,000 grant funding, which could pair with our search or PPG grants if you're looking into forming a stormwater utility. And the new New Jersey TAP Technical Assistance Program can help towns identify water infrastructure deficiencies, apply for our funding, and get projects started. That can also be used with our grant and loan programs that I just mentioned. And next slide. With that, I just want to leave you with our contact information. I know I went through a lot of stuff because we can do so much in our rural communities. We have 4 offices that can serve you. We're in Vineland, Columbus, Hackettstown, and our state office is in Mount Laurel. Here's our contact information for myself and our key program director staff. And as I mentioned, with any of the programs, we would be happy to schedule a call or a visit to discuss, specific potential projects or the challenges that you're facing that our resources may be a good fit to help you address. And as Mike had mentioned, I've sent a copy of this presentation to share with you. And if there's any time, I will be happy to take any questions.
Well, thank you, Jane. Very much appreciated. And we can kind of open it up to pause for a moment. If you have any questions, again, you can drop them into the chat box as well. Paul, have you been monitoring? I haven't seen much activity in the chat boxes. I think Jane's presentation was so thorough, probably answered a lot of questions, but have you heard anything?
There are a couple, Mike. The first one, the rural business development grants that open in November. When is the application deadline generally for that program?
Generally the end of February. So we just closed that period for the FY23, and the FY24 will open, we expect in November, usually is in November. And then again, it closes February of 2024.
Great. Thank you so much. Next question, in the value-added producer grants, are community groups or municipalities who are looking to explore establishing farmers markets or other types of community outlets eligible for that type of funding?
So for the value-added producer grant program, that is more for the business that is producing something, that's the agriculture producer. So in that case, really only the business is the eligible applicant. But what might be available is the RBDG might be the vehicle to perhaps study do a feasibility study, a marketing study on how to create those community markets, where to locate them, what partners to bring in. That might be the vehicle to look at doing something in a community.
Great, thank you. We now have two questions regarding the community facilities programs. The first is, what is the deadline for the community facilities programs? And the second is, well, what is the opening and funding dates, ballpark, and where do we get the applications?
So applications are all online, and that's rd.usda.gov/nj. So you can go on our website to find all of these, all the programs that I mentioned. You can contact us, and we'd be happy to either email you the application, schedule a quick call to talk to you through what your project is, and then send you the application via email. We're really a public-facing agency, and we like to hear from the public, and we'd like to be able to work directly with you. But to answer your other questions, it's a rolling application deadline. I think I'm looking at my website right now. Because I don't think we have a deadline up until the end of the fiscal year. But if I see that otherwise. Yep, I don't see it. So it would be, the deadline here would be, right now, the application is open and it's year round. And the deadline would be the end of our fiscal year, which would be September 30th. So we receive applications as they come in. They get scored. We have an allocation that we can use to spend. And then once that allocation is spent, most of the grant funds go first. And then we have lots of loan funding that we can use. And then if we need to, we can also go back to the national office for additional funds, additional loan funds. Grant funds are really hard to come by.
Great, thank you, Jane. And Mike dropped that link in the chat for everyone. Next question is, what is the award percentage for fire facility upgrades or equipment purchases?
So it's really dependent upon the median household income of the town. In some cases, the community has a low enough MHI that they could qualify for a 75% grant. Or it can go, if the MHI is on the higher side, it can go up to a 50% grant. And then some communities, the median household income is so high that there aren't grant funds available. Typically, the way our community facility programs work is because we don't get a lot of grant funding, we can't really apply grants towards a construction project. We mostly use our grant funding in the community facilities program for equipment. So, police cars, equipment for fire stations. When you get into a fire truck, now you're talking about some really serious money, and that generally is a loan with maybe some grant funding if it's possible, if the median household income is low enough for a community.
Great, thank you very much. Next question, would repair, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but would repair work at a former police station being converted to a community center / office space for staff qualify?
Yes, it would. It would qualify on the community facilities program, so long as that office space isn't being rented to a business. But you mentioned it was going to be for the staff, and then that would apply as a community facility project.
Great, thank you. Next, that income guideline, is that only for the portion of your town that is in the rural area?
Good question. We also use in the community facilities programs, and actually in the business programs, we use something called a service area. So sometimes, excuse me, sometimes we can look at the entire service area and determine what the aggregate median household income is in that area, and that could help raise or decrease the grant percentage. That also could mean that if a portion of the community was ineligible, using the portion of the community that of the service area that was eligible, we can get that project as an eligible project. If that answered that question.
I think so. Great. Thank you very much. And I think that looks like we are up to speed on all of the questions in the chat, Mike. So if, yep, we've answered, Jane has answered all of them. So.
You know,
All right.
our programs get really, really specific. What's an eligible use? What's an eligible area? Eligibility is different from program to program to program. As you can see, housing eligibility is different from business programs, which is different from community programs, which is different from wastewater programs. And if you thought that that was a nightmare, you can thank Congress. They can fix it as well. That's
Thank you, Jane, and appreciate it. Very informative. As I mentioned earlier, we are recording this. This webinar will be posted on our website for later viewing, along with the PowerPoint presentation. Jane provided, I think, contact information for 5 people and the website, so you have plenty of people to ask questions to, and try to take advantage of these great programs. So. Jane, thank you for the work that you do. You've been very accessible to the league since you've come into this position, and that is very appreciated. And I appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you, everyone. We actually have what appears to be a nice March day, maybe a little cold, but still weather's good. So maybe you can all get out, get some fresh air, and maybe start in those gardens soon and as well. But so everyone, we'll wrap this up. Thank you all, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Give us a call if we can help.
Great. Thank you so much, Jane. That was fantastic.